What if everything you thought you knew about Meghan Markle was a carefully constructed illusion? What if the Duchess, the Hollywood-turned royal icon, the face of modern monarchy, the woman who claimed to fight for transparency and authenticity, was hiding something so devastating, so irreversible, that the entire narrative would collapse like a house of cards? Before we continue, please hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and turn on the notification bell for updates. And what if that secret was human? A child, hidden, forgotten, covered up. Until now, a late-night video upload from a cluttered living room in Georgia, a shaky handheld camera, a woman trembling as she holds up a faded photograph, the edges torn, the ink smudged, and a man whispering, "We were told to never speak of this. But it's been long enough. The world needs to know what she did." The image freezes on screen, and for a moment, time stands still. That was the beginning of the storm. Now let's rewind, because the truth doesn't come knocking politely. It kicks down the door. And in this case, it began with a family that nobody had ever heard of. A family who claimed they had been part of something enormous, something illegal, something royal adjacent, and they weren't hiding anymore. According to them, Meghan Markle, long before the tiaras, the tabloids, and the tea with Queen Elizabeth, had experienced a secret pregnancy in her early 20s. A pregnancy never publicly acknowledged, a baby never named, a child allegedly handed over in a backroom deal that involved powerful names, large sums of money, and airtight silence. Until now, this family from Georgia wasn't just making noise. They had a clip, and in that clip were pieces, fragments, paperwork, an old check, a birth certificate with part of the name blacked out, a diary entry in a slanted hand that read, "I can't do this. Not like this. They'll ruin me." Let me ask you this. What would make a woman who eventually married into royalty give up her own child and bury that part of her story so deep that it took decades and a viral video to even raise suspicion? What does that say about the persona, the brand, the icon? And more importantly, what happens when the child grows up and starts asking questions? This story isn't just about a baby deal. It's about power. It's about reinvention. It's about the terrifying price of fame and the people crushed beneath it. We've seen Meghan Markle walk away from the British royal family. We've heard her claim she was silenced. We've watched her rebuild in Montecito, releasing podcasts, children's books, Netflix series. Always carefully curated. Always in control of the narrative. But this time, she's not in control. And the timing? Oh, it couldn't be worse. Just as she tries to rebrand, regain public trust, and launch her next big media venture, this clip surfaces. It rips open an old wound. It reintroduces a chapter she never wanted written. This Georgia family says they were approached through a third party, that Meghan's name was never spoken directly. But the circumstances, the money, the paperwork, all signs pointed to one woman desperate to hide a past mistake. Let's pause for a second. Think about how far someone might go to protect a secret like that. Would they change their phone number? Disappear for months? Threaten those who knew too much? Destroy documents? Would they rewrite their own history? Because according to some early roommates, former friends, and even exes, that's exactly what Meghan did. We combed through old records. We traced timelines. We dug into the missing months, the same period when she dropped out of view, long before Suits, long before her rise to fame. And here's what's really chilling. Her public timeline skips just enough. Enough to raise eyebrows. Enough to plant doubt. One Georgia family's confession has ignited a wildfire. But here's the kicker. This isn't the first time whispers like this have floated through Hollywood's underbelly. But it's the first time anyone dared to go public. This video clip isn't your typical tabloid trash. It's grainy, raw, and awkward. The kind of thing no one would fake because it's too ugly to be polished. It doesn't scream, "Look at me." It whispers, "Listen closely." And in a digital world obsessed with receipts, this family didn't come empty-handed. They held up fragments. Blurry, yes, but visible. A check with no name. A photo of a newborn. A birth certificate with part of it missing. A signature that resembles Meghan's slanted cursive. And perhaps most damning, a line from a handwritten letter that reads, "Please make sure this never leads back to me." Can you imagine? Can you imagine discovering that someone you watched marry a prince? Someone who gave you motivational speeches and lifestyle blogs had made a deal to hand off a baby No questions asked? Now let's be fair. Secrets don't always mean guilt. But silence often speaks volumes. And Meghan? She hasn't said a word. Not one public comment. Not a denial. Not a legal threat. Not even a vague Instagram quote about resilience or forgiveness. Just nothing. And that silence? That's louder than any press release. Sources close to the Georgia family say they've been sitting on this secret for years. At first, they were afraid. Then they were ashamed. But as the child grew up, confused, angry, asking questions, they realized they couldn't protect the lie forever. So they recorded the video. It wasn't for fame. It wasn't for money. It was a reckoning. And they released it because they said, the truth has a right to breathe. But the consequences? Oh, they were immediate. Royal experts started circling. Online sleuths went into overdrive. Old college photos were dug up. Meghan's ex-boyfriends were contacted. Law firm documents were allegedly leaked. And fans, the same ones who defended her through every headline, began to ask, did she lie to us all? Let's get real. If this turns out to be true, if Meghan Markle had a child in her early 20s and orchestrated a private adoption to erase it, this doesn't just damage her image. It nukes it. Because it's not just the act. It's the cover-up. The reinvention. The brand built on truth-telling and authenticity. What if that was all smoke? What if the real Meghan never made it past Georgia? This story matters now more than ever because we are witnessing, in real time, the unraveling of a fairy tale. One woman, who rose from Hollywood side roles to Buckingham Palace, now facing allegations so raw, so intimate, they might shatter the myth entirely. But what drives a woman to bury her past? And if the Georgia family is telling the truth, then where is the child now? Because the most haunting part of that viral video wasn't the paperwork. It wasn't the money. It wasn't even the names whispered off camera. It was the moment the woman held up a faded onesie and said, he still sleeps with this sometimes. I told him he was chosen. But he always knew someone left him. That's not tabloid gossip. That's heartbreak. And if this child is real and knows who his mother is, then we're not just dealing with a scandal. We're dealing with a reckoning. So brace yourself. Because in the next chapter, we're going to break down that clip frame by frame. You'll see what the family showed, what they said, and what Meghan has never publicly acknowledged. But what comes after? That's what will shake Montecito. Because what's buried in Georgia is about to rise. And no palace can protect her now. Have you ever watched something so raw, so unsettling, so painfully real, that it stuck in your mind long after the screen went dark? That's what people said after watching the clip. The one from Georgia. It didn't drop with fanfare. There was no marketing push, no PR stunt, no countdown clock. Just a shaky upload to a small YouTube channel under the name, The Truth Tells Itself. The kind of title you'd scroll past without a second thought, until you saw the thumbnail. Two people, middle-aged, sitting on a worn-out couch in a poorly lit room, one with trembling hands clutching a photograph, and the other holding a folder bursting at the seams with aged papers. And one line changed everything. She told us to never speak of this. But it's been long enough. The world needs to know what Meghan Markle did. The internet didn't know what to make of it at first. Was it a hoax? A deepfake? Another attempt to ride the Markle media wave? But then people started watching. Then sharing. Then tearing the video apart, second by second. And what they found inside wasn't polished. It wasn't glamorous. It wasn't even well shot. But it was believable. The kind of believable that haunts you. Let's break down what the video actually shows. It opens with silence. No intro music. No title screen. Just the sound of a box being slid across a table. You see the woman first. Tired eyes, blotchy cheeks, a hint of fear in her throat as she speaks. She introduces herself only by her first name, Catherine. Beside her, a man. Gruff. Anxious. He keeps looking off camera, like someone's going to burst through the door any second. He says nothing for the first 3 minutes. Catherine begins. She says this isn't for clout. That she and her husband were told to keep quiet for nearly 2 decades. That when the agreement was made, the deal, as she calls it, they were led to believe it was for the baby's safety. That the mother didn't want to be involved. That she was too young, too scared, and too tied up in something bigger than any of us. Then she says the name, Meghan Markle, and everything in the clip shifts. The man clears his throat, uncomfortable. Catherine grips the baby photo tighter. She holds it up to the camera and whispers, "We didn't know who she'd become. We didn't know she'd be royal." The photo is blurry, but you can make out the baby, wrapped in a blue blanket, with a full head of hair. The corner of the photo has a date scribbled, 2003. Think about that. 2 full years before Meghan's big break on TV. A decade before Suits. Nearly 15 years before she'd ever meet Prince Harry. Why would a young woman, then in her early 20s, go to such lengths to erase a chapter from her life? And more importantly, why would this family keep that photo all this time? The camera zooms in on what appears to be a fragment of a document. Part of a check. Only the lower third is visible, but the amount is clear, $500,000. The signature? Missing. Torn. But the routing numbers and bank stamp appear to match a well-known Los Angeles private law firm. The kind that doesn't ask questions. The kind you hire when you want something, or someone, to disappear. Now let me ask you this. If this video was fake, why risk lawsuits, threats, and international media blowback for a lie? And if it isn't fake, why hasn't Meghan Markle responded? As the video continues, the man, finally speaking, says they were approached through a friend of a friend. That the woman, Meghan, never met them in person. Everything was coordinated through an intermediary. Someone who represented her, but never mentioned her name. Still, they were promised financial support, legal protection, and most of all, silence. The man's voice cracks when he says, "She didn't want to know the baby's name. Just told us to raise it right. Like it never happened." Then comes the moment that broke the internet. Catherine holds up a baby blanket, small, faded, with a stitched star in the corner. Her hands are shaking. "He still sleeps with this," she says. "We told him he was adopted, that he was special, but he always knew. He always knew he came from somewhere else." That's when people lost it. The comment sections lit up. Is this real? She looks terrified, not like someone chasing fame. Check the routing numbers. They match. This is way too detailed to be fake. Why isn't Meghan denying it? And then came the sleuths. You know the type: Reddit warriors, armchair detectives, TikTok breakdown accounts. They cross-referenced the baby photo with public birth records from Georgia in 2003. Found a few matches. One birth certificate with a blacked-out mother's name. No father listed. The hospital name mentioned? Same one Catherine accidentally references in the video. Southern Heart Regional Medical Center. Coincidence? You tell me. Then there's the handwriting. At one point in the clip, the man unfolds a tiny slip of paper. It's wrinkled, creased, nearly illegible. But the sentence is chilling. "I can't keep it. Not like this. It's not part of the plan." The camera lingers on the note for just a moment too long, and people took screenshots. Within hours, amateur handwriting analysts started comparing the cursive to Meghan's old autographs, signatures on fan photos, even her wedding guest book. The slanted T, the rounded A, the way she dots her I with a slightly tilted flick. Match, match, match. Is it conclusive? Not by itself. But as the evidence stacks, you start to feel the weight of it. Now here's where it gets even stranger. That video stayed up for just 17 hours before the channel was taken down. Gone. No warning. No copyright claim. No community strike explanation. Just gone. And guess what else? Catherine and her husband haven't been seen online since. No follow-up. No statements. Not even so much as a Facebook status. Their social media accounts disappeared. Their email addresses went dead. Their phone numbers stopped ringing. Silenced. Or scared. Or bought? That silence speaks volumes. And yet, the clip had already been downloaded, mirrored, and reposted across the web. It's impossible to bury something that explosive in the age of digital receipts. By the time the mainstream press caught wind, it was too late. The story had legs. And those legs were running straight to Buckingham Palace. Now, the media didn't want to touch it at first. Too risky. Too unconfirmed. Too raw. But that didn't stop people from talking. Whispers turned into questions. Questions turned into outrage. And in the middle of it all, Meghan Markle. The woman who built an empire on truth-telling, vulnerability, and openness, remained silent. Not even a statement through her PR team. Not even a denial. Why? Why let such an explosive allegation simmer without extinguishing it? Unless denying it would only draw more attention. Or worse, confirm it indirectly. Now pause. Ask yourself this. If you were wrongly accused of giving up a child in secret, of orchestrating a backroom baby deal, would you not scream your innocence from the rooftops? Would you not call your lawyers, issue a cease and desist, or at the very least post a cryptic Instagram quote about truth always winning? But for Meghan, radio silence. Which brings us back to the video. One clip, 17 minutes long, and it lit a match that may very well burn down everything she's tried to build. But here's what no one expected. Because just as online investigators were dissecting the clip, another person came forward. Someone who claimed they knew Meghan during that missing year. And what they said would add fuel to an already raging fire.